All right, we are live with Benjamin Knight Fuchs
Hey,
in the
Liam.
house.
Good to see you, buddy.
How's it going?
It's going good. I want to get my camera so I'm more like you. How's that? All right, there
There
we
we
go.
go.
All right. Yeah, it's going good. Happy Sunday. It's 100
Happy
degrees, 100
Sunday.
degrees here in Colorado. Been hot all day. I'm glad
Yeah,
I'm in my
it's been a scorcher here in the Chi-Town area. It's like 100 degrees almost,
yeah.
man.
Probably feels like a lot worse than that with all that humidity by the lake. Are you right
Yeah.
downtown? Are you right downtown?
Just west of Chicago in the
Okay.
suburb. Just
You're in the suburbs. You sound like a
just
Chicagoan, though.
That's right. In
All
the
right.
blood.
No play. All right, so I want to talk about retinol today. I've been in the skin. I do nutrition. I love nutrition, but I've been in the skincare business for 40 years or so. I've been formulating skincare products, and there's so much confusion about ingredients and products, what to use, how to best address my skincare problems, acne, aging, dark spots, etc. I think it's really important that we recognize the importance of uh, this really powerful yet very misunderstood ingredient called retinol. Retinol is basically vitamin A. I think it's really fascinating how vitamin A, topical vitamin A, has such powerful effects as a skincare ingredient. There's no other vitamin, with the exception of vitamin C, which is doesn't have anywhere near the potency of retinol, that is both a nutritional substance that you can eat to improve your body's biochemistry from a nutritional standpoint, and that you can apply on your skin as well to get the really magical skin benefits that you get with retinol. Now, retinol has been around for a long time, but only in the last maybe 10 or 15 years have we really gotten to understand the importance of. You might want to pop up that first article there, Mr. Liam. Retinol was the first vitamin to be synthesized in the laboratory, and it's really the first vitamin that that skincare professionals, dermatologists, and estheticians started to use to leverage its vitamin and nutritional properties. By that, I mean its healing properties on the skin. Vitamin A stimulates things. It's a building molecule. I call vitamin A vitamin anabolic. Anabolism refers to building, and I think of vitamin A as a building molecule. You just pop the next slide up there, Mr. Liam. This is an article about the improvement of naturally aged skin that is just aging, wrinkles, fine lines, thinning, with vitamin A in its retinol form. And this is just one study that I found, but there are zillions of these things. If you just Google retinol and anti-aging, this was a study that was done on elderly subjects, average age of 87 years old, concluding topical retinol improved fine lines, fine wrinkles associated with natural aging, and also topical use of retinol was associated with a significant induction, that is stimulation, of a spongy type molecule called a glycosaminoglycan, or GAGs. In other words, retinol not only helps improve wrinkles, but it also improves the production of these GAGs, which are water trappers. And this is very important because retinol has a reputation for drying the skin out, which it can do in the short run. But in the long run, by virtue of its ability to stimulate the production of these GAGs, which are sponge-like materials that trap water, in the long run, retinol not only can help you with fine lines and wrinkles, but it can also help you improve skin hydration, the skin's ability to trap water. And as we'll talk about maybe on another episode, that's really the best way to moisturize the skin. Superficial moisturizers that are waxy and oily that you rub on the surface of the skin, those don't really moisturize the skin. They create a slick sensation on the surface of the skin, but that's not moisturization. Retinol, by virtue of its ability to turn on the production of these GAGs, these glycosaminoglycans, can actually improve the skin's ability to hydrate itself. So in a way, retinol, while it may have a reputation for drying the skin, which you can do in the short run, is actually a true ingredient that moisturizes the skin. Retinol is also is compared a lot to retinoic acid. You might pop the next slide up there. Retinoic acid is active vitamin A. Retinol is pro-vitamin A, or pre-vitamin A. So retinol has to get turned into retinoic acid. And retinoic acid, as many people know, is the active ingredient in Retin A. And that's kind of been a go-to standard ingredient for dermatologists to use, or any doctors to use, really, for aging skin. get a prescription for retinoic acid. And the reason it's a prescription is, for one thing, Johnson & Johnson, the company that patented the molecule, first came up with Retin-A. When they went and got their FDA approval, they went and got it approved as a drug. But also, retinoic acid is pretty darn stimulating, and actually it can be kind of irritating. Turns out that retinol will give you many of the benefits of retinoic acid. In fact, it'll give you all the benefits of retinoic acid, albeit not as intensely, but without the irritation. And this is really important because a lot of people, number one, will say they can't use retinoic acid, or they don't want to deal with going to the doctor to get their retinoic acid. Retinol represents a wonderful over-the-counter alternative. It does have a certain degree of aggressiveness, but nothing like retinoic acid that you get from a dermatologist. And of course, you don't need to have a prescription for retinol. So retinol is not only good for anti-aging, and I'll say retinol, but I really mean vitamin A. Vitamin A is not only good for anti-aging, whether it's the retinoic acid form or the retinol form. It's also a really good ingredient for acne. It's kind of interesting that you have an anti-aging ingredient. You might want to put the next slide up there. You have an anti-aging ingredient that also helps with acne. So in addition to retinol and retinoic acid's ability to stimulate things, vitamin A is vitamin anabolic, it turns out that retinol also can slow down rapid cell division, which occurs in acne. It's the rapid cell division inside a follicle that leads to what's called a comedone or a pimple. And by virtue of its ability to slow down, or we say normalize, rapid cell division, hyper proliferation of cells, retinol and retinoic acid can also improve acne-prone skin. Bonus, retinol and retinoic acid also have an ability to slow down the secretion of sebum, which is a secondary mechanism for the formation of a comedone or a pimple. So you got two really important mechanisms for retinol and retinoic acid improving acne-prone skin. Number one, slowing down the rapid cell division and deposition of proteins inside the follicle that clogs pores, and also slowing down the secretion of sebum or skin oils, which exacerbates the clogged pores. And there's another benefit too that retinol and retinoic acid can have for acne-prone skin, and that is by exfoliating the surface of the skin, you will actually improve the appearance of blemish-prone skin and allow oxygen and light to get inside the follicle to kill acne bacteria. So you got three really important mechanisms of action for retinol and retinoic acid's effects on acne and ability to improve acne-prone skin, and that's on top of its ability to anti-age the skin, to improve moisturization of the skin. You can see why I'm so big on this incredibly important molecule, which at the end of the day is a vitamin and just a nutritional substance that has all these wonderful benefits when applied topically. And then, of course, as many people know, melasma, hyperpigmentation, very troubling. One of the most troubling skin conditions that can affect folks, older folks. Melasma, hyperpigmentation typically doesn't affect younger folks, but after the age of 30 or 40 or 50s, when hormones start to change, particularly female hormone estrogen, as well as stress hormone, cortisol and insulin and thyroid hormone, all of these are involved in hyperpigmentation or melasma. It turns out that this wonderfully multifunctional ingredient, which is a vitamin, is not only great for acne and older skin, aging skin, thinning skin, dry skin, it's also a wonderful way to topically lighten the skin if you're dealing with hyperpigmentation or melasma. Now, there are other ingredients you can use to lighten the skin, most notably hydroquinone, there's tranexamic acid, and there's kojic acid. There's a whole bunch of skin lightening ingredients. But when you use retinol to lighten your skin, you get the anti-aging benefits. You get the improvements in fine lines. You get the stimulation of the production of the glycosaminoglycans, and you get a reconditioning of the skin, smoother skin texture, on top of the anti-pigmentation effects, the exfoliating of old pigment and the inhibition of the production of new pigment, all from one wonderful ingredient. Although there are some downsides, retinol and retinoic acid can be a little bit stimulating, and oftentimes there are patients who'll say, oh, I can't use retinol, I can't use retinoic acid. Yes, you can if you use it strategically. You always want to start off with a low concentration, work yourself up. You always want to give yourself days off. And there's also some nutritional supplements that you can use, like essential fatty acids, for example, omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids, LA and ALA, they call them, linoleic acid and alpha linolenic acid, which are omega-6s and omega-3s. Omega-6s are found in lots of different grains. Omega-3s are found primarily in seeds like flax seeds and chia seeds and hemp seeds. Of course, fish has omega-3s in them. They're not essential fatty acids. Those are great strategies that you can use to help reduce the irritation, strengthen the skin, improve the health of the skin. So you can use retinol. Vitamin B3 or niacin can strengthen the skin barrier. And I always, when I'm formulating topical retinol products, I always mix it with vitamin C, which has an anti-irritating effect and allows my patients to use stronger or higher doses of retinol and retinoic acid, and they'll get the benefits of the vitamin C. It has to be fat-soluble vitamin C. Water-soluble vitamin C is drying to the skin. It can actually make the irritation from retinol a little bit worse. So you want fat-soluble vitamin C with your retinol. Make sure you're giving yourself essential fatty acids and using vitamin B3 niacin. Also, phospholipids, particularly lecithin, which is the most famous phospholipid, which are found in grains and eggs, organ meats. These phospholipids can also have a nice calming effect that will allow you to use a stronger dose of retinol without getting the irritation. So I think we got some questions, Mr. Liam.
You are correct. We have some questions, and I've got a question from Diana Lee from YouTube. Let's see what Diana
Lee, are you kidding me? Diana Lee?
She says, "You're a brother from another mother."
Are you serious? Diana Lee's on? Diana Lee is one of the most beautiful, spectacular, artistic, creative, talented women I've ever met in my life. Shout out to Diana Lee.
Shout out to Diana Lee. So this is your chance, people, on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn to ask Ben anything you like. Okay, so let's see. We have another question from Alexandra. What are the most common misconceptions about retinol? Good question.
The single most common misconception about retinol is that it will thin the skin. I hear this all the time from folks. I hear it actually from skincare professionals who should know better. So they say, oh, you shouldn't use retinol, it thins the skin. Well, here's the deal. Yes, retinol will thin the stratum corneum. That's the surface of the skin. The skin is made up of three main layers. The stratum corneum is the top. We call that the barrier. And then the middle part is the epidermis. Some people will tell you the stratum corneum is part of the epidermis. So I consider them to be distinct because the stratum corneum really has some unique properties. So you have the stratum corneum, the epidermis, and then you have the bulk of the skin, 90% of the skin, which is the dermis. Retinol and retinoic acid will thin out the stratum corneum. That's true. However, this is really important. The body's response to thinning is thickening. So while you'll get an initial thinning of the stratum corneum, in the long run, you'll get a stronger barrier, as well as a thickening of the epidermis and the dermis. So not to worry about the thinning any more than you would worry about tearing up your muscles when you go to the gym. You know, if you looked at your muscles, your biceps after you lifted weights, after you did curls, you go, oh my God, look what's happening to my biceps. I'm never going to lift weights again. Of course, that would be silly because the next day your biceps get bigger. And this is the way the muscles work. This phenomena of living systems getting stronger when they're stressed is referred to as hormesis, Hormesis. And leveraging hormesis is a really important anti-aging strategy. You know, we have a problem in our culture of too much comfort. We're too comfortable. When we think we want to be comfortable, but when we're comfortable sitting on our butts and eating comfort foods, we don't get healthier, we get fatter, we get more sluggish. When we exercise, which is uncomfortable, we get stronger. We reverse the aging process. So you want to leverage hormesis in terms of exercise, in terms of doing crossword puzzles and learning new languages, and in terms of using exfoliation strategies on the skin, as well as ingredients and products that contain ingredients like retinol and products that contain retinol. By the way, they call this idea where systems get stronger when they're stressed anti-fragility. Have you ever heard this term, anti-fragile?
Never heard
it. It's a really interesting term. Yeah, a guy, I forgot the guy's name, wrote a book about it called Anti-Fragile. And Nassim Taleb, I think it was the guy who wrote the book, Anti-Fragile. And he talks about in the book how there's three different systems. You have fragile systems, which break when they're stressed. You have non-fragile systems, which don't break when they're stressed. So porcelain, for example, that's fragile. Iron or steel, that's non-fragile. But what he talked about is anti-fragile systems. They don't break when they're stressed. They get stronger when they're stressed. And biological systems are the classic examples of anti-fragile systems. For example, you have a plant. You want to make the leaves nice and bushy. What do? You cut them back. You prune your plants and the leaves come back nice and bushy. You put stress on the plants, you get better leaves. Anti-fragility. You go to the gym. You lift weights. You tear up your muscles. You put stress on your muscles. You drop the pH. You put all kinds of stressors inside, biochemical stressors inside the tissue that's worked. Next day or next week or soon enough, your muscles get stronger. Another example of anti-fragility. Likewise with the skin. You put stressors on the skin, whether it's acids, which lower the pH, or exfoliating agents that are acidic, like alpha hydroxy acids or salicylic acid, or retinol on the skin. You thin the skin, you shake up the stratum corneum, you exfoliate and loosen the dead cells. What happens the next day? Thicker skin, less fine lines and wrinkles, more collagen, more glycosaminoglycans, a stronger barrier, thicker epidermis, everything you want in an anti-aging product you get by stressing the skin on the surface. So this idea that retinol will thin the skin, yeah, it's true, but that's not a problem. That's a good thing, because with the body or with the skin, you have an anti-fragile system that grows and develops and becomes more functional and more effective when it's stressed.
Okay. We've got a nice direct question here from Mark. Mark asks, will retinol help me with my zits?
Absolutely. Retinol is one of the greatest anti-acne ingredients you could ever use on your skin. Number one, as I talked about earlier, it stabilizes the growth or the proliferation, I should say, of skin cells. Real quick, your skin, if you looked at your skin under a microscope, you see a bunch of holes. Those holes are called pores, right? A pore is like the top or the opening of a rabbit hole. And the rabbit hole that the pore leads into is called a follicle. And so you got an opening on the top, that's a pore, and then you got a follicle, it's like a rabbit hole. And then inside the rabbit hole, you have a little oil gland. That's your sebaceous gland. Sometimes you'll have a hair in some follicles. If they're a hair follicle, they have a hair there too. But not all follicles have hairs. That follicle is lined with cells. And when those cells are dividing rapidly, under various conditions, such as when you're deficient in vitamin A. In fact, deficiencies in vitamin A are one of the major causes of this hyperproliferation of skin cells. You can get plugs inside that follicle. If you have an oil gland that's active, now you got oil in a plug, and that's pretty much where you got to have a zit. If you have bacteria in there, it can get pussy and infectious, and this is what leads to zits and what we call more technically acne comedones. Retinol slows down the proliferation of those cells in the rabbit hole, in the follicle. It also helps unroof comedones, so sunlight and oxygen can get into that follicle. And acne bacteria hate sunlight and they hate oxygen. So by unroofing or removing that surface plug on the rabbit hole, and by slowing down the proliferation of skin cells, yes, you can have a dramatically beneficial. Retinol can have a dramatically beneficial effect for acne, on top of the fact that it helps slow down the production of skin oil. So it also has a anti-sebum or anti-oil benefit, which can also improve the appearance of acne-prone skin. So absolutely, retinol is one of the all-time great anti-acne ingredients. You don't have to use it all over your face. You can just dab it on individual blemishes and individual zits. By the way, one of the really cool benefits of retinol, because of its ability to speed things up to help improve the movement of cells from the bottom to the top, you can use retinol on bug bites. It will it will speed the healing of mosquito bites and spider bites. It will also, if you have a splinter stuck inside your skin, you put retinol on top of that splinter or on top of the skin, and it will help the body, it will help the splinter leave the body. It will kind of push the splinter up as it's increasing or improving what we call transit of skin cells from the bottom to the top. Skin cells are rising from the bottom to the top all the time. With retinol, they're going to rise even faster. And if you have a splinter or a bug bite, it'll improve the excretion of that splinter or venom from your mosquito bite or your spider bite as it's pulling things up from the bottom to the top.
Fantastic information, Ben. Bug bites. Yes, this is the season of bug bites.
Yes, yeah. So get my Truth Retinol Roller. And by the way, all the retinol products that if you go to truthtreatments.com, you'll find a whole bunch of different retinol products for acne, for dark spots, for anti-aging, for thickening the skin. We've got retinol gels and retinol serums and retinol rollers. I absolutely love retinol. As I said, every time I formulate with retinol, I always include fat-soluble vitamin C to help soften the blow. And a lot of folks who can't ordinarily use retinol can use our retinol, our Truth Treatments retinols, because they all have vitamin C, which kind of mitigate that or soften the blow, as I like to say, mitigate the aggressiveness or the irritation that retinol can sometimes have.
Outstanding. So everybody on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, don't be shy. This is your chance to ask Ben what the subject is. Retinol. He's ready to answer anything that you. We have another question, Ben. This is Isabel. I want to use retinol, but it's too strong for me, just like you were talking about in the early part of the transmission.
Well, first of all,
what can Isabel?
You should try our Truth Treatments retinol, because we always add vitamin C, fat-soluble vitamin C, to our retinol, which means a lot of folks who think they can't use retinol can use our Truth Treatments retinols. You should also start with a very low concentration. Instead of when I formulate retinol, I'm formulating really high concentrations, like 5% retinol, 1% retinol, but I also have very low dose retinol, like 0.3% retinol. And I always recommend people, if they can't use retinol or they're starting off a retinol program, start with a lower dose and start with a lower frequency of use. Don't use it every day. Don't even use it every other day when you start. Maybe once a week. For some folks, maybe even once every 2 weeks. And then your skin will get used to retinol. And this is very important for folks who think they can't use retinol. If you start off slowly and build yourself up gradually, go from maybe once every 2 weeks to once a week to every 2 or 3 days. Taking days off, by the way, is really important with retinol, because your skin is actually responding to the retinol on the days off. The retinol activates chemistry, but the response occurs when you're not using retinol. So the days off are really important. Make sure you're maximizing your days off. If you're starting off a retinol program, start with a smaller concentration and then work yourself up gradually, and make sure you're supplementing with essential fatty acids, vitamin B3, which is niacin, and you might want to also throw in some phospholipids. All of these have a barrier strengthening effect, which can make it easier for you to tolerate retinol for folks who have more sensitive skin types. And by the way, sensitive skin, and we can talk about this on another episode because I don't want to digress too much, sensitive skin should always be backtracked to intestinal health. There are all kinds of molecules that are secreted into the intestine or into the blood through a leaky gut, as they say, or a leaky intestinal lining, leaky intestinal wall. And these toxins that get into the bloodstream are really the cause of sensitive skin. Some of these toxins are things like histamine, which is associated with allergic reactions. We all know about antihistamines. They're actually bacterial particles, pieces of bacteria called LPSs, or lipopolysaccharides, that can get into the bloodstream. Those are also associated with sensitive skin. There are food particles and immune particles that are get into the bloodstream through a leaky gut. So you always want to backtrack sensitive skin to intestinal health. And if you find that you can't use retinol, in addition to trying our Truth Treatments retinol with vitamin C and supplementing with EFAs, essential fatty acids, and vitamin B3, niacin, and phospholipids, make sure you're taking care of your intestinal and digestive health.
Yes, we're talking about the triangle of disease: digestive health,
yes,
hormonal awareness, and blood sugar sensitivity. It all works together.
Oh, Liam, blood sugar, you're learning. Hormonal health is cortisol, specifically adrenal health.
Adrenal health.
Adrenal
is it the
health.
HPA axis?
Very good. The HPA axis. Wow, my goodness. It's not exactly the HPA axis because the thyroid is involved there too. The HPA axis is the relationship between the hypothalamus, the pituitary,
and adrenal.
Right, HPA. So that's the connection between the adrenal glands and the brain. But in between, and there is a very important relationship, you're right. But what I'm talking about is the relationship between the adrenals and the thyroid. In fact, that might be a good topic for us to cover. I know we talked about the triangle of disease, but we didn't really talk about each one specifically. And the adrenal thyroid complex is very interesting because there's a lot of folks who are dealing with hypothyroidism, and they don't realize that a lot of that is being caused by stress, by a lot of cortisol, by adrenal activity. And working on adrenal health is really one of the most important strategies anybody who's got Hashimoto's disease or hypothyroidism can ever do. And of course, the digestive system is also very important for thyroid health. And I always recommend my Hashimoto's patients take care of their digestive health. But calming the body down is also very important if you're one of the millions, many millions of Americans. Probably, I'd say there's probably 100 million Americans or close to that many people who have hypothyroidism diagnosed and undiagnosed.
Yes, indeed. So what's that? What is the website we need to go to for these topical treatments?
Truthtreatments.com.
Truthtreatments.com.
I call my company The Truth because I hate BS, and that's exactly what Truth Treatments are. They're no BS. Took out the water, took out the fillers, took out the waxes, took out the preservatives. It's just 100% active and functional ingredients. Truthtreatments.com. And
I'm looking forward for a deep dive into the website one of these broadcasts. It's going to be great. All right, so we'd like to thank everybody from YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. Thank you so much for the questions. This was great. And we're almost at a half an hour, 26 minutes.
All right, time to wind down. We'll see everybody next Sunday.
We'll see everybody next Sunday. Have your questions ready. And if you think of a question, go ahead, put it in the comments of your platform, and we will address them on the next show. All right, everybody.
Thank you
so much for watching. We'll see you next time.